Welcome, everyone, to our Wednesday Bible study. We are glad that you are with us this evening. I send you greetings from the Hickory Knoll Church of Christ in Harahan, and we would love to be able to get to know you better and get to be able to study the Bible with you or answer any questions that you may have. But we continue our study tonight in the book of Philippians, and we have arrived to Philippians chapter 4, verse number 8. And this is what the Apostle Paul has to say in Philippians chapter 4, verse number 8. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. This is Wednesday, August 26th, and a little while later this evening and to the night and on tomorrow, Thursday, according to forecasts, Hurricane Laura is going to be hitting the Gulf Coast, southwest Louisiana coast, and it doesn't look good. Earlier this week, Hurricane Marco, he tried to make an appearance and just kind of fell apart, dwindled, and to my knowledge, there's not any significant damage or issue in the Gulf Coast. Maybe a little bit south of us in regards to some countries on the other side of the Gulf of Mexico. But Hurricane Laura is a different story. And looking at the radar and watching the news, it's coming. This is not going to just completely fall apart. I believe the last I checked, it had even increased up to hurricane category number 4. It, of course, may decrease a little bit as it makes landfall to a hurricane 3, possibly. Who knows exactly? We all know that there's a bit of uncertainty, but it does not look like this hurricane is going to fall apart as did Marco a few days ago. And certainly we need to be in prayer for the folks in the Lake Charles area, Houston, Galveston area, and as that storm continues to go inland, even folks on that Texas-Louisiana border, it looks scary. And I'm certainly not trying to be a doomsday type person, but by all means, if there's an opportunity to evacuate or to stay safe, it's now's the time to do so. And I would imagine those of us in the New Orleans area, there's a bit of sigh of relief, and obviously, though, there's much concern and much compassion for the folks over in Southwest Louisiana. I would imagine that all of us that have been in New Orleans for the past several years are quickly flooding. Our minds are being flooded, pun intended, I guess, of Hurricane Katrina 15 years ago in August of 2005, and just remember the terrible devastation that occurred throughout the city of New Orleans after the storm passed through. I remember having the opportunity to go with some of the church leaders at Hickory Knoll, including Brother Allen Laguna, and our preacher at the time, Mike Fox, and a couple of other Hickory Knoll folks. And I remember my good friend Doug Burleson who was preaching at the Goodwood Church at the time, and one of his elders, Brother George Lau, was there, and some other folks. We were driving around after Hurricane Katrina to assess the damages in at the area churches. We were thankful at Hickory Knoll we didn't have flooding from the street. We did have a large patch of our roof that had come off, and that took us 14 months to get back into our main auditorium to worship out of that auditorium. But compared to some of the other churches, I remember going down to the Elysian Fields congregation, and there was their sign out front, and their water line you could see on the sign, and there's pictures of this, and you could see how high the water was inside the building. It was absolutely, it was a mess. I remember going over to the Crowder Boulevard Church of Christ a little bit further east, and seeing all of the damage in the pews, and there's a glass front there at Crowder, and it was all a complete. It was in shambles. I remember going to the Louisa Street Church of Christ in the Ninth Ward, and going and just peeking in, and you didn't have to look very long. You could just see it was complete. It was complete destruction or devastation, a total loss. I remember seeing the church building over at the Chalmette Church of Christ. I remember going over to the West Bank and to the De Gaulle Drive Church, and their steeple that is on top of the building. It was completely bent over, and those scenes will, I suppose, be very memorable for the rest of our lives. And each of us have our own memories and scenes of our houses, of the church buildings, and there was nothing good in regards to the sights of New Orleans right after Hurricane Katrina. And I know also that some folks, they had loved ones who did not survive the storm, and there were people that it took a toll on them to a point where it was a very, very difficult situation, to say the least. But with all of that, I often think about, and many Christian folks think about, what we have come to refer to as the blessings of Katrina. Initially, on the outset, you would think there's nothing good. It's all negative. There's nothing good to think about or talk about in regards to Hurricane Katrina coming in and wiping out the city of New Orleans. But as time went by, it was becoming more and more evident that there were some blessings of Katrina. I know from talking to folks that people's faith was as strong as it ever was during that storm. It was a very scary time, and people were praying to the Lord and trusting in Him more so than they ever had before. I remember another blessing of Katrina was the enormous opportunity to serve others, we were receiving shipments and truckloads of all kinds of supplies and clothing and appliances and just things that people needed. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if anyone's going to show up for this. And I walk outside from the church building, and there was a line of cars going all the way down Hickory Avenue, to a point where one of the local Harahan police fellas said, "Hey, we got to do something about this line on Hickory." And so we ended up wrapping it in the back of our parking lot, and there was a great opportunity to serve others during that time, cleaning out houses and providing a place to stay for Others, as far as many of us had evacuated, and we're thankful for all of those folks who received us during that time. A third blessing that I think of in regards to Hurricane Katrina were the churches of Christ working together, area local churches, congregations coming together. It was a sense of brotherhood, a sense of a cooperation of churches working together. I remember very specifically there was a particular night in which there was a meeting, church leaders meeting, and we hosted it in the fellowship room at the Hickory Knoll church building, and there were all of the church leaders from the area churches were there, and the Goodwood Church in Baton Rouge was kind of serving as a I guess kind of leading the pack, at being 70 miles away. They didn't, or 50 miles away, they didn't quite have as much damage as we did in New Orleans, and so they were kind of spearheading the effort. And I'll never forget one of the things that was said by one of their elders, Brother George Lau, and as they were trying to figure out a plan to help the churches, he said something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, we're going to let the insurances pay for the building. We just want to make sure that the preachers are paid. And that was and I'm fighting back tears here. I'll never forget that moment. It was an understanding that there was work to do. And yes, the physical building damage was there, and there was going to be quite a bit of hassle on that. But the focus was on doing the work of the Lord, and to spread the gospel, and to make sure that the work of the Lord, in the midst of all of that tragedy and devastation, there was a perspective that said, this is a great opportunity for the churches in New Orleans to reach out to the lost. And to my knowledge, I don't recall any of the preachers leaving right after the hurricane. Just about all of them came back and worked hard, and much good was, of course, the members as well, and it was definitely congregational efforts. But I just remember that focus on the opportunity to reach out, and one of those blessings, of course, being evangelism. I know that at Hickory Knoll there was we had just started. We were about 5 years in to a Spanish-speaking ministry, and with the hurricane, many of those members had evacuated, and some found better places to live at other places and didn't come back. But our Spanish-speaking ministry essentially was rebuilt following Hurricane Katrina, and to this day it is continues to be a great outreach for our local area. And I'll say another blessing of Hurricane Katrina is that many churches began the bold endeavor of embracing diversity. And I know that with some churches closed down for extended period of times, there was an opportunity for us to be able to meet a whole lot of new Christians, to become connected, and to truly experience that Christian bond of people of like faith, many of which we did not know very well prior to the storm. So I don't know what's going to happen with Hurricane Laura. It is potentially a very, very scary thing. And I don't know to what extent the damages are going to be. And I would imagine there's going to be a whole lot of negative things being said in some form or fashion. And that's just a part of the process. But I do know that Paul says in Philippians 4, verse number 8, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. I'm going to tell you, with Hurricane Katrina, I think more about the positive than I do about the negative. And I know that's not an overnight thing, that it took a lot of us a lot of time to get to that. But I am hopeful and prayerful that in the very same way there were blessings of Katrina, there too will be blessings of Hurricane Laura as well. I hope this message has been helpful to you. Let's continue to pray for the folks who are in the path of this storm, and let's pray for opportunities to be able to continue the work of the Lord and to love Him and to love each other. More next time.